other people wishing to just add their name and affiliation in support of Senate Bill 545?
Madam Chair and members, I'm Trudy Schaefer, representing the League of Women Voters of California in support of SB 545. And also, Justin Milan was called to another hearing, and he asked me if I would state the support of the California Association of Environmental Health Administrators.
Very good. Thank you for your time.
Victoria Rome with NRDC, and also in support on behalf of CLCV. Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Leif Douch, and I'm speaking here today on behalf of two groups that work in Ventura and Santa Barbara counties to ensure proper environmental review of oil and gas activities. They're Save This SB and Citizens for Responsible Oil and Gas. So we urge an aye vote.
Olivia Regalia for Sierra Club, California, in support.
All right. Anyone else wishing to lend their name in support of this measure? Seeing and hearing none. Opposition? Got your two primary witnesses coming up and some to add on. All right, welcome. I think I heard the authors say some of that clarifying language could be addressed, but I know you have other concerns as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Eli Garcia for the Western States Petroleum Association. We are in opposition, and we'll do better in getting our opposition in and more promptly.
It's the first hearing, I understand.
Happy to do that. A lot of bills that were amended last week. First point, just for our frame of reference is, we understand that it's the author's intention to fundamentally alter the mission of the Division of Oil and Gas. That's the way we read the bill, and that's the way we react to language in the bill with that in mind. The Division of Oil and Gas has had a unique requirement in state for the state of California for over 100 years. It's a dual requirement to both protect the environment, protect water, air, and other requirements, but also to facilitate the development of the state's hydrocarbons. That's the dual responsibility, and in that way, it distinguishes it from the regional water quality control boards, the state water board, the air board, all of the other environmental agencies. Think of it as almost an economic development requirement as well. What you're proposing to do here is to remove that economic development requirement. You have hydrocarbons in the state that other states don't. It's your responsibility, and it's a state's responsibility to develop them responsibly. We're taking that mission away. So the way we look at, and I appreciate the Senator's proposed amendments to restore the supervised language in Section 2, Section 3106A, but let me suggest one thing. If we're going to restore supervised, we should restore the entire section the way it reads today, because what we've done here in the language is we've struck supervise, replaced it with authorize, and what that language reads today in law is it pertains to maintenance and day-to-day operations of an oil field. What you've done here now is you've expanded it to well stimulation, to all of the other kinds of more intense oil production activities, and so now it doesn't make sense. You're now back to supervising, but you've expanded beyond maintenance and operation. So that's a concern, and you may want to look at that a little closer. We would suggest. The second point I would make, actually, third point I would make, the language with regard to the application of the Permit Streamlining Act, we agree with the committee analysis. We're not sure that it's relevant here. I'm not sure that, I believe that it's not the Senator's intent to actually streamline permits in the oil and gas fields. So probably not, right? So what is the intention? If the issue is the 10-day language that's in statute and has been there for a number of years, if that's the offensive language, I would say that we may want to take a look at how it actually works. I think the Senator suggested that the regulators may not even be looking at these, and maybe in oil and gas activities are authorized in a 10-day time period. Well, it'd be very easy to ask the Division of Oil and Gas how many permits are actually allowed within 10 days. What you'll find is that the custom and practice is that every single submittal gets a letter of abeyance. A letter of abeyance suspends the time period so that the division can collect more information from the operator. That's engineering, details, information from geologists. All of the pertinent information happens in that time period. What doesn't happen in that time period is you get a permit and you move forward. So I think we're largely responding here to something that is in the code but isn't in practice. Maybe there's room to clean that up, but we should at least understand the practice of what happens and not suggest that because it's in the code, we get permits in a 10-day period and move forward that quickly. Data management, we support the need to improve the data management needs at the department, the Division of Oil and Gas. We, in fact, would recommend that you do it sooner than later, and would recommend that you do it, take the opportunity in this year's budget to make that happen. And it would encourage you to look at ways to make that happen in a much faster way than would ordinarily happen when the state develops new technology for data gathering. My understanding is it takes quite a bit of time. So anything that you can do to expedite that would be welcome. Last point, and we'll reserve this maybe for the next committee, but we do want to better understand what the implications are of some of the language in the bill that shifts what are now mays to shalls or shalls to mays.
And that's regarding water boards, CEQA, and those kinds of issues.
Right, so I understand that's for a different issue, but I want to make sure that we understand the implications of it. Again, is the intent to facilitate the development of hydrocarbons or to impede the development of hydrocarbons? Okay. We want to understand that. And again, we would just caution to go back and make sure that the language, if you're restoring supervise, that you think about restoring the code section as it reads today, otherwise it may be inconsistent. Thank you.
All right.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Hello.
P. Anthony Thomas, representing the California Independent Petroleum Association, and let me echo my counterparts' statements about getting information in on time. The bill was amended, and we apologize for the late notice of our opposition. Madam Chair, members, it's not necessarily the position of SIPA to necessarily defend or speak for state agencies, but given the remarks that have been made about Dogger and their ineffectiveness or their lack of their responsibility, I have to take issue with it, given the charge that Dogger has been allocated in regards to their work plan, in regards to outlining new regulations and implementing those regulations and where they came from. It seems that they're going probably not as as expeditiously as everyone would like, including industry, but I believe they're working in a space and on track. So I wanted to make sure and make that point. Insofar as the bill is concerned specifically, Senators, the definition of enhanced oil recovery, in our view, is overly broad and certainly needs to be revisited. We know that industry is currently working on a definition that, in fact, would reflect the unique production.
We'd love to see that when you have.
Yes, ma'am.
So would the author behind you.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sure that everyone would. So we're working on it as fast as possible, Senator. So thank you for that. Newly proposed 3213.5 relative to forcing a notice of any minor mechanical issue with the well ignores the fact that Dogger already requires mechanical integrity tests on a prescribed basis. It also eliminates the ability of operators to put a well in idle status until they figure out the best economic way of managing that particular well. The new language, 3106 small a, prohibiting any damage to any waters that could be treated to be suitable for irrigation or domestic purposes, is entirely open-ended. Taken literally, someone could argue that technology on a 150-year basis would treat that water, and so therefore current production is prohibited. As out of bounds as that sounds, it's as out of bounds as we interpret the open-endedness of 3106 small a. Let me just close, Senator, by saying that I'm not sure exactly what the supporters of 545 are hoping to accomplish by tying the permit approval to a particular risk threshold, but we would certainly need more information in that regard. With that, member, we think the bill, the bill's going to pass out of committee, but we think that the bill warrants to be held in committee. We think the bill warrants a great deal more of work, and if the senator is willing, and we are more than willing to do so as well. SIPA stands opposed. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Understood. Anyone else wishing to add their name in opposition to this measure?
Valerie Nara for the California Chamber. We're also opposed.
Thank you. All right. questions by members of the committee to the author? Senator Waso?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just simply a comment, and it will include a question, but I heard, I think you definitely hit a gray area when we're talking about environmental quality, and both sides say that they care about the environment and the process. I think there's been enough information to suggest that there may be an absence of sufficient monitoring or oversight in the process to ensure that information is made available to our state and the people of our state, and that there's a process that's being conducted safely. So I think you have some room to work here. I saw that your bill is referred not only to this committee but to environmental quality. We spoke earlier, and I talked about my interest in achieving California's energy independence, and that would mean that, you know, whatever California's need is for energy, we need to find a way to satisfy that locally within the state. I am concerned that this kind of action can have a result in reducing in local energy extraction. That I wouldn't like to see that, but I would also like to see that if we are extracting energy locally, that it's done safely, that it doesn't pollute our community, it doesn't affect the people living within the proximity of those activities. So there's a balance I think that we can meet. I think there's a balance that I think you can achieve with this action, and I'm interested in seeing that through. I would have liked this bill to come to my committee in energy because it might have an impact on, you know, energy, but I don't want to necessarily impede your ability to move forward and to go through a process. I would simply like to ask you to, you know, offer to work with my office should any concerns be raised on that side of energy, access to energy, access availability, energy independence, because that's something that I really want to work on as my role as chair of energy. And if there anything that comes into that area in this process that you agree to work with me on this bill and see if we can address those issues as we go through this process.
Any comments or a motion?
I'll move the bill.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Senator Stone. And if you would just sort of tabulate these questions and address them in your close, if that's all right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's no question that Dogger has had its issues over the many years prior to me coming to the legislature. Hopefully they're moving in the right direction to ensure that we have protection of the environment, but again, one of their charters, if you will, is to facilitate the development and extraction of domestic hydrocarbons. And it seems to me that we're attempting to penalize the industry for the shortcomings of Dogger that seem to be on track and getting into the right realm of their regulatory activity. But to require permits for virtually, you know, all aspects of oil fields, including maintenance, is going to add significant costs and burdens to the industry. In an industry that, you know I've heard the concerns about steam fracturing and risks to water supplies, but I haven't seen or heard of one example where the steam fracturing or the drilling has caused the compromise of any potable water supplies in the state of California. This is an administrative burden to otherwise safe gasoline operations in California. I think that adoption of these regulations and changing the whole orientation of Dogger is just going to compound the state's reputation of being over-regulatory and overburdening. And we have the opportunity to extract oil domestically here which reduces our carbon footprint in the millions of barrels of oil that we are able to safely extract out of the ground that we otherwise would have to import, from other countries, from other areas, and the greenhouse gases that would be associated with that. So I believe the Dogger's on the right track. I think this is going to really burden the industry, where I'd like to see us have energy independence. And I know we have this very important goal of getting to 2030 with 50% renewables. We know that that's going to be a challenge. It's a very lofty goal. That's a very good goal. But I believe that hydrocarbons, gasoline is still going to be playing a vital role in our economy in the state for many years to come. And I would rather see us domestically make it economically feasible to extract those natural resources than to basically regulate them out of business and having to import the same. So unfortunately, I won't be able to support the bill today.
Okay, Senator Jackson, if you would please close and address any questions or comments.